This is Ask Congress, where we try to bring you closer to the members of Congress and have informal discussions with the members who are very influential in the decisions that are made that affect you, the American people, and people throughout the world. One situation that has a very potent effect upon the future of our environment is a situation that's developing in a very senior member of the Congress, Congressman John Conyers, former chairman of the Judiciary Committee and the ranking member. John, there is talk, and most people don't know what pet coke is all about. They think of pet rocks. Mm-hmm. Tell us, you have a situation that's particularly attracting attention now in Detroit. Am I correct in that?
You are correct, Lester, and I'm glad that you raised this because we have a buildup of the residue from these pipelines, and the biggest pipeline issue of all is still in front of us. We're in the process of determining whether we're going to allow Keystone XL to come down, send pipes of this crude oil that comes out of sand and
fracking, in other words. Is that right?
That's right, and very, very dangerous to the atmosphere and to the people. It has 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide, which can have disastrous worldwide consequences. So
we're having enough trouble with the environment and global warming and everything else. We don't need anything else to add to it.
It's aggravating global warming. You're right on the money. And what happens is that as they go through this process, huge piles of residue are built up of this petroleum coke, pet coke, and we've got big piles of it off the Detroit River and along the beautiful Detroit Belle Isle, our recreational.
But it seems to me,
and it's blowing around and it's going into the water.
It seems to me it has more significance than just Detroit.
It
has great significance because people are not very much aware of the dangers that are involved in this situation.
And we have not been successful in getting our environmental agencies to clamp down on this because they pile the residue up and it blows around instead of getting rid of it.
Is this a political matter now?
Well, it's not as political as much as it is a governmental responsibility that's not being taken care of properly.
Is this, I understand that behind pet coke is Coke.
Oh, the Coke, you're thinking about the Koch brothers.
Yes.
And they are exactly the ones involved. And that comes out of that incredible Supreme Court decision that just came down that
permits the use of enormous amounts of money into the political arena.
And they gave it a beautiful title, and it allowed corporate money unreported in any amount to be put into the campaigns.
Well, are the Koch brothers deeply involved in this?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, indeed. And Koch Carbon.
That's the company?
That's the company. And
Koch, K-O-C-H?
K-O-C-H, right.
Uh-huh.
And it's incredible that we would be allowing this to happen because of the health consequences. And that's why I'm so glad that your interest in this gets us to talk about it a little further, because these piles that are building up are very dangerous, and the pipeline that's coming from Canada and Keystone is going all the way into Houston.
That's a little bit of
Houston,
an
Texas.
aside, actually, from what has been revealed in the media. What I mean by that is the fact that people talk about the Keystone Pipeline as a political matter, but you're giving credibility to the people who are opposed to the pipeline based upon this situation, which is an dangerous environmental situation.
Oh, it's incredibly dangerous, because it's so important that President Obama signs off preventing this pipeline from being extended all the way from Canada through parts of western United States all the way down to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
If this were to be permitted, there would be all kinds of health consequences. We've already had cases where the sands and oil from these kinds of processes have created terrible health consequences, and I'm urging, and I'm hoping that all your listeners are urging the president not to give an approval.
It's become almost a political football, because people have not visibly or have not really understood the environmental dangers that really occur. People have said that this is, this is for the birds. It protects the birds.
Not for the birds. No, it releases carbon dioxide that
And
takes care of the
bird.
birds and the people. Everybody. It's very dangerous.
I think it's important that you brought this to really to our attention.
Global warming is to be resisted, and I can't tell you how important this is, and we're watching what the
Are there any
president
hearings?
does.
Any hearings on this at all that you know of?
There have been hearings, yes, and that's where we've gotten so much of this information, because this is not the way for us to be going, because the climate, the global warming is already getting hotter. Our oceans are getting warmer. We're releasing carbon dioxide into the air. The pipes break down, and then you have this buildup of this coke, petroleum.
For those who do not believe in global warming, I suggest they come to Washington today, where the temperature is almost 105.
That's right.
Reaching positions that were far beyond anything we anticipated.
I think it's up in that 90 to 100 range in many parts of the country already. They don't even have to come in here. They can just say maybe it's a little hotter here, but I think we've the real danger is that if we don't act soon, it will be too late.
John,
you can't turn it back.
John, the unfortunate part of what is happening, when you and I came to Congress, it was not this same type of acrimony that exists between Democrats and Republicans. I remember I appointed a chairman, Ben Gilman, who was a
Republican from New York.
From New York. I appointed him, being a Democrat, as the chairman of a subcommittee that I headed. That couldn't exist today.
No, that wouldn't be permitted. You would be castigated.
Are you optimistic about changes that might occur? In other words, that there be greater comedy in the Congress?
The reason that I am is because many of these conservatives are sending the message that will lead to their being reviewed by their own constituency in an incredible way. What they're doing to women's rights is unbelievable. They go into the bedroom and determine when fertility is allowed, when abortion can be permitted, as if we're doctors or something. Then we have immigration, in which we're trying to work out a path of citizenship to people who've worked and been exploited for decades, and they say, well, we'll let them in, but they have to go back to their own country and reapply, and we'll maybe let a few in temporarily. But I think we're bigger than that.
You know, this reminds me of the time, and it was attributed to me at the time, when I met with Deng Xiaoping, who was the head of China at that time, and it was during a refugee crisis. And he said to me, you know, when we were trying to stop the refugees, or making the refugees leave the areas of Vietnam and such, and he said to me, do you want 1 million Chinese, or do you want 100 million Chinese? The fact is, there weren't big enough boats to carry all those people, and there are not big enough boats to carry all these people who are the immigrants who are even illegal out of the country today.
Right. We have 11 million, but we can create a system. The immigration system's been broken for decades. We can begin to build up a system where we can process them through a program of them being good workers, stayed out of trouble, pay their taxes.
An evolutionary process, in other words.
Yeah, it is evolutionary, but it is a process. Right now, these poor folks are exploited. They do the hardest work. We can't find anybody in this country to do the kind of farm work, John, that they do.
I've got to cut away from you for a moment while our local stations cut in. We'll be right back with you. We've been talking to Congressman John Conyers, former chairman of the Judiciary Committee, now the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, and I was going to say one of the oldest members of Congress, but I mean in length of service.
You're talking about seniority.
Seniority, that's right.
Thank you.
No, I'm one of the oldest former members of Congress.
Right.
I'm number 6, I believe it is now. But anyway, I don't even want to talk about the past. We want to talk about the future. And one of the futures of this country, the economic future of this country, is certainly dependent upon jobs. And you have been supporting the whole idea of bringing back the Humphrey Hawkins bill.
As a matter of fact, I've named my bill the new revised Humphrey Hawkins Full Employment Act. And it's out of the fact that we, every now and then, when unemployment figures get high, we rush to the boards to try to bring it down a little bit. But this time I want to go further, Lester Wolff. What we want to do now is create a full employment society. Remember, we're the richest, most powerful nation in history. There's no reason that we should have such great numbers of unemployed amongst us when, if we give this a higher priority of importance, we can create full employment. It isn't that we don't have anything for anybody to do. Our roads, our bridges,
the whole infrastructure,
the infrastructure, our waterways, everything requires a lot more training. Now we've got green jobs being developed at a very fast rate, and there's new technology coming out that we need to have people trained for. And so this is important for our national economy, but it's also important for individuals. When a person has a job, they have income, they can take care of their family, and it's stabilizing. It gives people confidence that we can move up the economic ladder. And so we want to put everybody to work. We don't want to get it down to a small percentage of unemployed. The only unemployed that I want in the economy that I dare to dream of is transitional unemployment. If you're leaving one job, going to another job, there may be a period of time that you may not be working.
Well, you know, it's something that I find as an outsider, not as an insider in Congress any longer. I find that people are critical of government. They treat government as if it is an enemy. And it's unfortunate that people are not participatory, being part of government rather than against government.
But there is that, because so many people have had their hopes dashed by promises that were never fulfilled. And so I'm sympathetic to that attitude. But we know that government is determines the direction, the speed, and the amount of people that will be lifted up and out of poverty. And that's what I'm working for. Martin Luther King summed it up best: jobs, equality, and peace.
Well, you know, it seems to me that we are living in a society no longer a question of democracy. It's gone so much further than that. It's almost anarchy that exists when you consider the fact that an elected person in the Middle East, a man who was elected president, the mob overturned that. And here we are trying to spread democracy throughout the world, and the mob takes over and makes a determination that this man should be thrown out of office. This, to my mind, is symbolic of situations that are occurring all over the world. For example, in the Pacific region today, you have a situation where there's a dispute among the Philippines, among Taiwan, among Japan, among China, and somebody comes in from Philippines and shoots a fisherman because he's supposedly intruding upon their territory. Do you think that's justified?
That's made a lot of people think twice. Of course, it isn't. Violence is never justifiable, and one of the things that encouraged me so much about this 44th President of the United States is that he wants to look at Africa not in any kind of demeaning perspective. What he wants to do is turn on the power in Africa. He wants to bring in electricity, and he's gone over and he's gone there and told them that that's what his biggest goal is, because until they get that kind of power,
and the wherewithal to, yes.
Sure, that's just the beginning.
But we're in competition with the Chinese, who've been there ahead of us.
They've been there and they've been doing things, but now we're going to play catch up. And I think Obama sees exactly what you've seen, is that we've been outpaced in certain parts of the world, and that's why I think this talk of electricity and power coming in,
yeah.
water, is a huge precondition to us moving ahead on the African continent.
The important part of it is the fact that we're not looking for extracting the resources of Africa and bringing it like China is right now.
That's right.
Looking for advantage and bringing stuff out of Africa, so to speak. We're trying to promote the individual and promote the whole idea of diversity, whatever you want to call it. We're trying to promote, it seems to me, that we're trying to promote the idea of people bootstrapping their own talents and their capabilities.
Exactly. The Chinese want a quid pro quo. That we're going to give you something, but we also want these minerals and all of the valuable metals, some very rare that can only be obtained from this part of the world anywhere. And what we're saying is and Obama made this very clear in the ways that only he can articulate as he does, that we want to turn the lights on in Africa. We want to electrify this country. And he didn't put any conditions on it or ask for any particular favors in terms of the trade balances between us. And I think it's very important, because the world is getting smaller and smaller. What used to happen somewhere far away, we would say, oh, well, that's too bad about that. Now, that incident that you mentioned of this one person being killed, that reverberates around the world. They're fighting over who owns an island. And this is, to me, an important part of our messaging as we move forward in the 21st century.
The other part of it, too, is Africa is extremely important to the future. Why? Because of the fact that it has been exploited, but it's still unexploited so far of its potential. But the other part of the world that seems to be neglected is Latin America. I find that, when we have alienated people by indifference. And we're seeing that now with this fellow Snowden, who has gotten permission not gotten permission, but has been invited to several Latin American countries.
Well, he's been turned down by many more, though.
Oh, yes.
Want no part of him, because that kind of revealing of a trade and confidential materials and an intelligence is to me where you cross the line.
That's right.
I think it's intolerable.
It is not. There is a reason for classification. Overclassification is a problem, but there is a fine line, as you say,
right,
as to who should do it. How come that they talk about whistleblowers, but there are self-anointed people who feel that they have the only power to be able to reveal these things. And it's a situation. He's unelected too, by the way. He's not a member of Congress.
Well, I'm glad of that. That's some relief to me. Well, what we see happening now is that we're beginning to find out that there can be too much data out here. You have privacy, and so does every other American, and we should respect that privacy. And when it's disclosed, even by these self-anointed people that sometimes claim to be whistleblowers, it's something that should be dealt with and stopped immediately. And I think that you're dealing here with a legislature and an executive branch that is prepared to realize that there is a line that we have to draw, and that everybody's privacy has to be respected.
What do you think we should do with Snowden?
Well, I think that he should be extradited back to the United States and let the Department of Justice determine what kind of charges should be brought. I think he has crossed the line, and that I think that it's a tragedy when someone who was apparently in a position as high as he was decides that he's going to become a government leaker all by himself.
Not alone that, but I think that the major factor that's involved are the people that hired him and permitted him to have this information.
He was unsupervised.
That's
too.
right.
He was unsupervised.
John, I want to thank you very much for
It's always a pleasure
being
to
with
see
us.
you again, and thank you for the invitation. Let's keep hope alive. There's a big march on August the 24th. 50 years ago, you were probably in that.
That's right.
And you should be in the one that's coming up next month.
I'll be glad to. Thanks again, and now until next week at the same time, Celestial Wolff saying so long from Washington.